Growing up, I wouldn't be excused from the dinner table until my plate was sparkling clean. Not that it was too much to ask, my mom is an amazing chef, but I was probably too busy building potato forts with little gravy moats to realize the lesson my parents were trying to instill in me. Something that I now consider to be one of my most cherished ideas, that food is valuable. Now, this may strike you, as it should, to be a widespread belief, but the fact is this. We make enough food to feed the world 1.5 times over, yet a staggering 1/3 of all the food produced ends up in a landfill. Most of it still perfectly edible, while 1 in 9 people goes hungry worldwide. From the farms to the grocery stores to our own dinner tables, surplus food is being wasted all across the supply chain, and that's bad for 3 reasons. The first reason is that wasting food also means that we're wasting the resources that went into making it. The second reason is that wasted food is responsible for 7% of the global greenhouse gas emissions contributing to climate change. The third reason, more than 800 million people are going hungry every single day. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, 1 in 4 American households struggled with food insecurity in 2020. What's really tough to swallow about all of this is that in the United States, 37% of food waste is generated by us at the consumer level. Think the zucchini at the back of the fridge or the leftovers from your cousin's birthday party that nobody got around to eating. My parents' lesson is no longer the pervasive story of mealtime in the USA. Rather than treating our food as a valuable resource, we tend to take it for granted. There's something darkly ironic about kale going moldy in my crisper drawer, while millions of our most vulnerable have limited access to affordable, nutritious, fresh food in the first place. Still, every year, the average family in the US sends 800 pounds of food to a landfill, which costs them $2,000 and contributes 2 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions. How might we fix our broken relationship to food? Well, by the end of our time together, I'm hoping you will have learned a little bit more about the problem we're facing. Then I'll explain why I'm optimistic about our chances at working toward a solution together. And lastly, I hope you'll leave feeling more empowered to deeply value the food that you eat. My suggestion is this. Out of all the choices we can make to live better lives or to live more sustainably, making sure that more of our food gets eaten is the best and easiest place to start. From seed to dinner scraps, even what we don't get around to eating should not be thought of as waste, but rather as a valuable resource right through to the end. I'm asking that we reprioritize food as something not only invaluable to human life, but as one of the shining highlights of each of our own little slices of the human experience. In the process, we can feed the hungry, we can help mitigate climate change, we save loads of money, and we get to eat more delicious food. These are problems canceling each other out. It's a win-win-win-win. Okay, so let's say a little bit more about the problem. Food production and transportation account for roughly 30% of our individual carbon footprints. After all, it takes a lot of resources to plant, grow, harvest, transport, package, store, sell, and produce all of the food that we eat. I absolutely love peaches, so let's take a look at a peach for a quick example. Did you know that the average peach needs 142 gallons of water to grow? Or that as many as half of them won't make it off the farm, while another third won't qualify for the grocery store's beauty standards, as in too ugly or misshapen to be put on display at all. Plus, it'll travel an average of 1,600 miles before it's eaten. That's the same distance as driving from Fresno to Bismarck, or roughly 25 hours straight. By the time you add up all of this waste, at the farms, at the packing facilities, and in our homes, as many as 70% of the peaches we grow won't get eaten on a bad year. All of this for a single peach. Now imagine the mountains of resources behind the food at any big box grocery store, and include the fact that 1/3 of that food will end up in a trash can. It becomes easy to see that food is the largest occupant in our landfills. There, rather than breaking down naturally into healthy compost, it releases methane as it decays, which is a greenhouse gas 30 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So all along the supply chain, there are unsustainable, inefficient systems with waste baked into their processes. We try to mass produce food like it's any other product, but food is not like any other product. We need to shift from an abundance mindset, from acting as if these resources are unlimited, to building more sustainable, circular, and localized models across the entire food system. Wouldn't it be cool if all of the food we ate was grown within 250 miles of where it's eaten? Or what if every store had an aisle especially for food products created from upcycled food waste? In their newest flagship report on the state of the planet and climate change, Project Drawdown lists reducing food waste as one of the most impactful solutions we can implement for mitigating or reversing the effects of climate change. I'd like to do some rapid-fire introductions about a few more specific solutions in the food waste space in hopes of shedding light on a larger trend that this is a fight worth fighting. Okay, let's start with ReFed. They're a national nonprofit dedicated to ending food loss across the entire U.S. food system by advancing data-driven solutions. They've conducted valuable research and built many useful tools, from a policy finder to a purposeful action plan, all in the hopes of achieving a 50% food waste reduction by 2030. They are coordinating massive scale solutions across multiple stakeholders, and their website is full of awesome information, so please be sure to go check out ReFed. In the investment world, Kroger's Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Foundation has mobilized over $15 million to teams trying to address these fundamental absurdities in our food system. Seeing Kroger, such a massive player in the food space, backing the startups who are trying to address the problem is but one example of the sort of urgency and traction we're seeing in the space right now. Or take the Wonderful Company, who make the Palm Wonderful drinks, among many other products. They're currently hosting an open innovation challenge with a $1 million prize pool, looking for creative ways to repurpose the some 50,000 tons of pomegranate husks left over from production every year. The winners of that $1 million prize are set to be announced any day. Okay, so we really only have time to scratch the surface here, but I'm happy to say that beyond these examples, there are hundreds of startups, grassroots organizations, and small community movements trying to bring global attention to these issues. There's a palpable sense of momentum among the hardworking people I've spoken to in the food industry. Now, it was precisely that momentum, with plenty of guidance along the way, that led me to help found ProduceMate. We are a mission-driven food waste company dedicated to reducing food waste and its massive impact on our planet. Our very first product, the ProduceMate, is an antimicrobial silicone kitchen mat designed to extend the life of your fruits and vegetables. Simply place one in the crisper drawer or on the countertop and store your produce on top of the mat. Then the mat fights bacteria that usually contribute to spoilage. So less bacteria means longer lasting produce. Like many of you watching, I found myself completely taken aback when I was first learning about the coming realities of climate change. My eternal optimism and a healthy dose of naivete drove me to dive in head first to be involved with the people trying to work on real solutions. In building ProduceMate, I've been able to work for the past few years interviewing experts, compiling research, and trying to understand the gaps in our food system. The more I learn, the more optimistic I feel, and the more I realize that we all reap the benefits of avoiding waste. Plus, we don't all have to start nonprofits to make a big difference. Let me explain. It's widely accepted that to meet our most ambitious climate change goals, or indeed to stand a chance at mitigating or reversing the effects of climate change, we're going to have to make big changes to our personal and our consumer habits. But that's tough. It's really tough to convince people to change in a significant way, particularly when their choices only seem to make a drop in the bucket of a problem so large it spans generations and the entire globe. You will never meet the people whose lives you save by cutting down on your carbon footprint. Indeed, we're facing a massive challenge, and many of the best estimates of what's to come are getting more pessimistic. In the face of this pessimism, I'd like to reiterate something for you to be excited about. If your family managed to cut your food waste to zero for a whole year, you would save $2,000. You could have as much as 500 pounds of food to donate or eat. And you would cut your carbon emissions by as much as 2 metric tons, or roughly the equivalent of driving the family car 4,000 miles. For this dream to become a reality, I'm here to speak up for food and to ask that you help me in imbuing into our culture a deep sense of value for what we eat. I think we can do that by refocusing our relationship to food around 3 central ideas. The first idea is to be aware of areas in your own life where food is going uneaten. There are loads of easy ways to cut back, from making a grocery list to freezing your leftovers. In fact, if you want to try something super easy after this talk, try reorganizing your fridge so that you can easily see everything inside of it at a glance. I also encourage you to do a bit more research about these and the other ways to easily cut back on food waste at home. Because we are responsible for almost 40% of the problem, small changes really will add up in the case of wasted food. Okay, the second idea. Food is valuable from seed to compost. We need to call the food waste problem what it really is. It is a waste of surplus food that could have fed the hungry and of all the resources that went into it. The third idea, close the loop, and like my parents always told me, eat your food. I invite you to think about the times in your life when a meal at the end of a long day brought you together with loved ones. Or picture the ripest heirloom tomato you can, covered in sea salt. Or think about the borderline spiritual joy of drinking a tall glass of freshly squeezed orange juice. When you begin to cherish every meal as among the best moments of your day, eating all of your food and donating or composting what you don't eventually becomes second nature. So I'd like to leave you with a quick story about the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. I was traveling with my girlfriend. Her name is Elise. We took an amazing October road trip to see the autumn colors on the Washington and Oregon coastlines. We stopped in a small seaside town at a local fruit stand, and I picked up what I thought was a plum. A bit bigger than a plum, the sign sticking out of the fruit pile actually said pluot. I know, I had never heard of it either, but it turns out a pluot is a cross between an apricot and a plum. Something about the unexpected burst of flavor and the deepest red color, the pure childlike joy of biting into something that was completely new to me. All these deep emotions tied to a single piece of fruit. And now I see that in reality, each and every piece of fruit is just as valuable as that October pluot. Those little human moments add up to a lifetime of choices and memories. Now, facing the existential threat of climate change, we need to be more conscious than ever of overconsumption, and we need to do our best to reduce our wastefulness. Because food is such an integral part of each of our lives, and because it makes up such a large chunk of our carbon footprint, small habitual changes in your own life really will add up toward creating a larger impact. As we work toward solving world hunger and finding proper uses for our surplus food, I invite you to join me and the countless others who have inspired me in making a commitment to waste less, eat more, and to give one of our most precious resources the respect that it deserves.